So over on the far right, Gabe Feenan, one of our resident team of glass blowers, is rounding out that ball of glass using a tool called the block, B-L-O-C-K. The blocks are made out of wood. They're stored in a bucket of water. As long as the wood itself is wet, the tool doesn't burn, nor does it leave any marks as he shapes the glass. These look like scoops, but we don't scoop up any water in them. We use them empty. We just want the wood itself to be wet so it doesn't burn too much. So we picked up the cane, the individual rods, the contrasting stripes of colored glass. We're going to melt those in, and each one of those will become a stripe on the finished vase. So the oven that Gabe is heating the glass in is called the glory hole. It has no glass in it. It's just a big brick barrel with a gas burner in the side. We keep it at around 2,300 degrees. And it's only on during the working day. So he's melted those stripes in. When they went on, they were straight. As he rolls it across that table, he's going to let it drag a little bit. And as the bubble drags against the table, the stripes will twist. And we'll get into more of a spiral design rather than straight up and down. If you watch Gabe closely, you'll see some of the time when he's twisting it, He'll hold his thumb over the end of that steel tube. That traps the air inside, and the heat from the glass expands the air just a little bit to give him a little pressure to keep the shape inflated. So one of the glass blowers is crouched down to the left of the bench in a black shirt. She's the one that's blowing. She's blowing through the steel tube, the blowpipe, and inflating the glass as Gabe shapes it. Gabe is the man in the bright blue shirt. So the woman in the black shirt to the left of the bench, she's blowing. Gabe, the man in the bright blue shirt, has a pad of wet newspaper, and he's shaping the bubble as Felicia, the black shirt, blows it up, makes it big. Yes, he was here yesterday, and Lino will be here again on Sunday. The colors in glass, you can really only color the glass when you first cook it up from scratch. It's like making a chocolate cake. You get all the ingredients, mix them up, and then bake them. The things that color glass are mostly metals. Not everything that colors glass is a metal, but most of them are. If you cook up the raw ingredients of glass with cobalt, you get blue, chromium green, a little bit of gold pink, a lot of gold, a beautiful ruby red. So it's metals dissolved in the glass that give it its color. Now the chemistry can get fairly complicated. I'm sort of simplifying it, but the basic idea is metals dissolved in glass give it its color. So we're going to wind on a little pad on the base. Back in my day, we used to call that the cheater. You guys have any questions? Do you guys have any questions? Good. So we stuck the second steel rod, the punty, onto the base. When we feel that that connection is firm, we'll break it off at the top. Yes, ma'am. There's 3 reasons why the building is built in this shape. First and foremost, it looks really cool. That's number 1. Number 2, it's designed so the whole building acts as a giant chimney. So there's a natural updraft just like a chimney in your house. The third reason is historical. Along this waterway, before the museum was here, there were a number of sawmills. The sawmills had big conical metal outbuildings where they burned the waste wood from the sawmills to dry the lumber. When the architect, Arthur Erickson, who designed this building, saw pictures of those metal outbuildings, that's what gave him the idea to make the building in this shape. So the next thing we're going to do is stretch out the glass at the very top of the vase and trim some of it off. So Gabe, in the blue shirt, he's got a pair of tweezers in his hand. He's gonna grab and stretch, grab and stretch, grab and stretch, and then trim off some of the thick glass at the very top. Talking about this part right here. So he's stretching, 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 stretching. Now he's got the shears. He's going to cut off a little bit of the thick glass right at the very top. You're going to trim a little bit more off. This Sunday, we're going to be hosting the greatest glass blower in the world. It's a Venetian master by the name of Lino Tagliapietro. He started blowing glass when he was 11. He's now 83. And he'll be working here in our studio on Sunday. So if you can make it down, you'll see a living legend. So we're almost done. And the reason I know that is we look to the right, you see one of the glass blowers has put on some protective clothing. She's going to load the finished vase into our annealing oven. When she grabs that vase, it'll be about 1,000 degrees. At that temperature, the glass will be hard, and it needs to be cooled slowly overnight to prevent it from breaking. If we just made it, set it on a table, and let it cool on its own, it would cool too quickly and unevenly and it would shatter. We dip those tweezers into water, drip a little water on the joint between the vase and the metal rod, little tap, off it comes. We'll melt a little spot on the base, stamp it with our museum logo, and into our annealing oven to cool slowly overnight. So let's have a hand for the Museum of Glass Hot Shop team. You guys have any questions? So for those who just came in, okay, we don't make any of the glass here. We buy the glass in the form of little chunks. Yes. Yeah, there's a company called Spectrum, and they sell us get around to you. So over here on your far right, we've just melted on a little blob of colored glass. Nick's going to push that back, and we'll mush it till it entirely coats the original bubble. So the next shape we're going to try is this bowl shape over here. So if you look to the right of center, Nick has blown a bubble of clear glass, coated it with colored glass. Now he's letting it cool a little bit and stiffen, and we're going to dip it back into our big tank of clear molten glass. Each time we dip it in, it adds another layer of clear glass, and each time we dip it in, it's called taking a gather. G-A-T-H-E-R. Once we get the glass on there, we want to round it out, make it nice and even. So Nick has in his hand a tool called the block, B-L-O-C-K. It's made out of wood. It looks like he's found a couple of bubbles in the glass. When the glass is thick and gooey like that, he can actually physically yank them out, snip them off, and round the glass out again, and it'll be like they were never there. So over here on the right, Gabe's going to blow the bubble up a little bit. So in the center, Jack in the dark blue shirt is heating up our rods of colored glass, our cane. And those rods of colored glass are going to become the stripes on Gabe's vid. Okay, change of plan. We're going for this one. Gabe has picked up the cane, the stripes of colored glass. Now he's going to melt them into the sides of his bubble. Yes. There's two kinds of furnaces. The round ones with the doors open are 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. The ones with the doors closed, where we have the tanks of molten glass, are 2,100. So just about 6 times what it takes to cook a turkey. So right now, Gabe is rolling the glass against the table, but he's also letting it drag a little bit. So the rods of glass that went on straight will now start to twist. So the stripes will spiral around the surface of the vase rather than go straight up and down. Yes, ma'am. You'll have to speak a little louder. I can't hear you. Have the techniques and tools changed very much? No, not really. A guy from the Renaissance could come into this shop, sit down on our bench, and make a wine glass without even blinking. Two big changes are, in the old days, the furnaces would have run on wood. Now our furnaces run on natural gas. And they didn't have torches till probably the 1950s. How did they get the heat? They heated it up in the furnaces. They just went back in the furnaces. They were good. So the woman to the left of the bench in the black shirt, she's the person that's blowing. She's blowing through the steel tube, the blowpipe, and inflating the glass while Gabe shakes it. So Gabe has just sort of cut in the basic shape. He's made a narrow part up at the top. It's going to become this part. And then he's going to blow the bulbous part on the bottom into the tapered cone shape. Anybody have any questions? We don't really start with a piece of glass. We have a big tank of molten glass, and we take the pipe and we dip into the molten glass, and then dip it in several times till we get all the glass we need. So we don't start with a chunk of glass. When Gabe swings the glass like that, the glass is hot and soft, and the centrifugal force is causing it to stretch. He's making that bubble longer. So Jack, in the dark blue shirt, is holding a wooden paddle against the bottom. And that'll make the bottom of the vase flat so it can stand on the table. is. He's going to trim off a little bit of the thick glass right at the very top. When glass is hot, you can cut it with a scissors. You guys have any questions? Here we go. A few drops of water on the joint between the metal rod and the vase. Little tap. Off it comes. We'll melt a little spot, soften it on the base, and then stamp it with our Museum of Glass logo and into our annealing oven where it'll be cooled slowly overnight. So let's have a big hand for the Museum of Glass shop. So over on the right, we're starting our next piece. Nick, in the gray shirt, has blown a bubble of clear glass. Felicia, in the black shirt, is heating up a chunk of amethyst-colored glass. We're going to melt the colored glass over the clear glass. So Nick will let his bubble cool a bit and get stiff. Felicia will let her chunk of colored glass to make it really hot and gooey. and then we'll blob on some of the colored glass. This is what we call a color overlay. We'll dab on a blob of the color. We'll heat that up and then mush it until it entirely covers the original bubble. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to try and make this bowl. If we get two bubbles, and you'll see more of the natural color. So over here on the right, Gabe's making a pony. Very often when we have a little leftover glass, we do something fun with it.